everyone. I'm Max.
I'm Marla. Welcome to the fifth episode of our Pacific Adventure. You'll notice we have another change of scenery. We wanted to be outside today, but it's probably 50 degrees and windy. So we decided we would be better off having it inside. I'm sure with the wind, you probably would not have been able to hear us. Yesterday, last night actually, was one of our, well, not one, it was the roughest day we've had. We're currently in the middle of the Tasman Sea, which notoriously is rough. So we knew it coming in, and anyway, welcome to the fifth edition.
Um, One thing along that line is probably the biggest observation over this New Zealand stop has been the weather. I think the highest temperature we've experienced while we've been here is probably 75 degrees.
Yeah,
And you have to keep in mind, we're here in February. This is their warmest month of the year. This is really the peak of their summer heat. And at first I thought, well, maybe it's abnormally cold, but it's not. This is pretty much normal
normal.
temperatures. And I thought, well, maybe they're further from the equator than Kansas City, and they're not. They're closer. So this is just New Zealand climate.
Right.
So anyway, we have four stops and one sailing day while we're here, so we're going to cover all those. And our first stop was Auckland, and this was a wonderful city. If you aren't familiar with Auckland, one thing you keep in mind is it is roughly one third of the entire population of New Zealand reside in the Auckland area, and New Zealand, population wise, is a very small country, less than 6 million, but um, a third, like I say, a third of people live in Auckland. So when we arrived, we had a couple of things we wanted to do right off. So we were the second and third people off the ship
Right.
that day. We were on a mission, and we hurried over to the ferry terminal, which was probably 100 yards from the ship, and we were on the first ferry over to a little town called Devonport that I think we stumbled into from one of our travel shows or
Right.
YouTube channels or something. But it was a beautiful town. We were both, after we were there, saying if you were going to live in the Auckland area, this is where you'd want to live, where you just have this small town feel, but you're right next to a big city and you don't even have to fight traffic to get there. You just take this 12-minute ferry ride. And it was a Saturday morning, so we just walked around and enjoyed people watching with the locals in their sidewalk cafes and their coffee houses, and just really just enjoyed the
Right.
city.
Mm-hmm.
And after we were finished there, we caught the ferry back to the city, Auckland, and we beelined over to the Sky Tower. And you know, sky towers are in every major city, it seems like, these days, and it's the most touristy thing we did while we were in New Zealand. But um, it opened, I believe, at 9:30,
9:30.
and so we were on the first elevator up. This was a day of always being first for us, and so we were on the first elevator up, and you start off at this observation level, and we had some pictures taken, and it was nice because no one was in there. I think that elevator up, there's probably 10 people in, including us, and so you didn't have a bunch of tourists that you were having to somehow edit out of your pictures. It was just great. And then you went to a second level, which was just the highest point
Right.
that you could get to, and there wasn't a lot to do up
No.
there. But then the third level you go to is this place with shops, and they'd like to sell you beer or sandwiches, and they have ice cream and I think some touristy knickknacks. But we planned ourselves at this table and were overlooking where they were going to do bungee jumping and the skywalk, and we wanted to see people do it. We didn't
Right.
want to participate in that,
No.
but you can bungee jump, and it's 63 stories um,
Hi.
high, and or you can do a skywalk, which the skywalk has a platform that's 4 feet wide, and there's no rail. You have you're tethered in, of course, but you're kind of on your own out there, and it was fun, but also a little scary to just watch
Right.
these people. The people that were out there, I think two of them were older than
Oh, they were
us,
older than us. I would say they were mid to late seven, or yeah, mid to late 70s.
and they had no fear.
No.
But we really enjoyed that. We probably did that for about 15 minutes, and you ultimately go back down some stairs, and you end up at the point you started at. In the when the elevator took you to the observation level, and it was packed by then.
Right. It
So
was so full. We were
we're it was mission accomplished.
exactly. Exactly.
And so after that, it left the rest of the day for us just to wander around and enjoy Auckland. And we were getting hungry by that point, so we found a little side alley,
Right.
and there was a Italian restaurant, and we sat on the outside and had a pizza and a couple of local beers, and just people watched and relaxed for a little bit, and then we did some shopping,
Shopping.
and we ended up our day at a rooftop bar that was overlooking the harbor, and again, just enjoying this beautiful
Right.
city.
Relaxed. People watched.
Yeah.
Enjoyed the beautiful weather. Our next stop was Taronga. It's the ninth largest city in New Zealand with a population of approximately 110,000. Um, this was probably our least favorite stop, and not because we didn't enjoy it, it was just comparative to the competition, the other four stops that we had. So, we were. What part of the reason also that it was probably our least favorite is we really wanted to hike up Mount Managanui, and it was unfortunately closed because a couple of weeks prior they had a landslide that killed 6 people. So the area was completely blocked off. There was no way to access it, which, is obviously for everyone's own safety. So we walked from the port around to the ocean walk and just enjoyed a nice walk along there. Um, it was just nice to be off the ship, get some exercise, get some fresh air. So we enjoyed that. It was cool when we started out, but warmed up very quickly. We walked back into the little town, which was really nice. Again, it was a weekend, so there was a lot of local families out, but we stumbled across a barber shop, so where Max was able to get his first haircut at an actual barber shop that wasn't given to him by Marla since COVID. So we both enjoyed that. The other thing that we did, we just, walked around, did some more shopping, just enjoyed, the area. It was really nice. We stopped at a place called the Astrolabe, which is a local brewery for lunch, and of course we were the first ones there. And but by the time we left, it really filled up. It was a very popular place, very good local beers, which we've been on a mission to keep trying local beers, and a really good burger that we split. And it was nice. It was just nice to sit again and relax and enjoy the area and just enjoy our trip.
Okay, our third stop was probably our favorite stop in this journey through New Zealand. It's called Picton, and Picton, if I didn't realize this, but the total population of Picton is 4,900, and to kind of give you a little perspective, our cruise ship, including crew, is 2,900. So we were adding 50% to the population just arriving at that port. And the port itself was, to me, fascinating because you looked out our window when we arrived, and it was nothing but lumber.
Right.
We are told that New Zealand produces 47 times their need in lumber per year, so they use what they need, and most of the rest of it goes to China, which produce chopsticks probably. But so our first thing when we got off the ship is we climbed this hill that to us felt like a mountain. Luckily, we ran into a local who could direct us, or we would
We probably would still be walking around.
Yeah, we did not know where we were going,
No.
and it was fairly well marked, but we struggled a little bit, and you ended up at this peak called Queen Charlotte View, and you were overlooking the harbor, and it was worth the
It was
trip.
definitely worth it. Yes, definitely.
So we got a couple pictures there, and then took the trip back down, obviously, and that was probably tougher than the trip up. It,
Yes.
it was rough,
Yes.
and but after that, we went to a sandwich shop called Toasty Lords, and this was highly recommended by friends of ours who had lived in this area
Mm-hmm.
for a year during COVID, and so we went to check it out, and it was delicious. I would best describe it as a grilled cheese sandwich on steroids. It was,
Very good.
yes.
Best grilled cheese I think I've ever had.
And so we were glad we did that. We walked around the town, but with a population of 4,900, it doesn't take you long to do that. And we ended up at a Irish bar called Seamus Irish Pub. Uh, this was a lot of fun. One thing we like to do on all of our trips
Yep.
is to find a local place where you could sit at the bar and talk to the bartender and get a feel for the town and everything. And this was really the first place on this trip we were able to do that.
Right. First place that had a bar that you could sit at.
Yeah. And so we were sitting there. We are talking to Dale. Dale's actually from Scotland, but has been in Picton area for 13 years, and just enjoying talking with him. And along comes our couple of friends we met on the ship, Peter and Deidre,
Yep.
and just a good way to end the day
In
there.
the day. And Peter is from, just as a background, which is why they ended up there, not knowing we would be there. Peter's from Liverpool and Deidre's from Dublin. So, of course, we didn't know they'd be there, but of course they ended up there. So that was a lot of fun. Our next stop was New Plymouth, which this town really surprised us. And apparently, we were the only cruise ship that stopped there this cruise season. Um, Last year, I think they had 8, but for some reason, I don't know if it's just not popular, or, and maybe part of the reason is, again, its port is a working port for lumber. So if you're a cruise passenger, you have to be bused into the city, which is about a 15-minute ride, but it's great because it literally drops you off right in the middle of the city. And so again, we were okay planning our day, and we said, let's do this stop first. So we were the only people who went right when we got off the bus. Um, I'm sorry, we went right when we got off the bus.
Yeah.
And we wanted to hightail it to this local botanical garden called Pukakura Park. That was absolutely fabulous. It was just incredible. So peaceful, so beautiful. Lots of bridges. They had a water wheel. They had a waterfall that was man made, we found out, because we stood there looking at it thinking, this isn't very impressive. And a local woman, thank goodness, walked up and said, you have to push the button to get it to activate. So we did that, and then it was really impressive, even though, again, it was man made. The other thing we really enjoyed there was it's called the Fernery, and it was a three a group of 3 greenhouses that had the most beautiful foliage and flora. That, I mean, it was just incredible. Um, Fortunately, again, because we went there first, we were the only people in the greenhouses, so it was easy for us to navigate because they're very narrow passageways, probably 2 feet in a lot of the areas. You kind of go through downstairs through little kind of caves. I don't know if they're man made, I'm guessing, into the next area. So it would have been miserable if it was packed. But we really enjoyed it. It was just incredible. Um, After that, we did take the walk back to the coastal walk, which is about 7.5 miles long. And we, of course, went the wrong direction trying to find the, I'm going to mispronounce I know because it's not easy to say, but the Tarawa Bridge, something to that effect. And needless to say, I'll only refer to it going forward as the bridge. But we, enjoyed the walk. We, there's a lot of like artwork along the way. There was I'm trying to see, mothers and daughters sculpture. There was the wind wand and some other, just nice art installations. It was most of the way was not beach. It was just a coastal walkway full of lava, huge black lava rocks. It was just really pretty. Um, so we got finally to the bridge, and which was further than we thought. By the time we got there, we had walked 11 miles that day. So we decided we're not walking back because we found ourselves kind of in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, yeah, it was.
There was a golf course, there was a camping area, so we called an Uber and took an Uber ride back into the city.
One thing on
Oh,
that, with tip, that Uber ride was $13. It
right.
was
So
money well spent.
money well
13
spent.
US.
13 US, right. So he dropped us off at a little kind of restaurant that we had seen before we ventured off, and had sat there on a rooftop area and enjoyed again a pizza, a few local beers, and just ended our day. Well, I guess we didn't. We ended up after we did that, we still had some time, so we kind of walked through the little town a little bit, did some shopping before we got on the shuttle to go back to the port. But all in all, it was just a great place. If you're ever in that area, we highly recommend it. Our next stop was the Fiordland National Park. We were in an area called um, Milford Sound, which is roughly the size of Connecticut. The sound, which is actually a fjord, um, because the sound was made by river and fjords are made by glacier. So this was made by glaciers. It's approximately 9 miles long. Beautiful scenery. It's one of the wettest places on earth. They get about 23 feet of rain a year, and just absolutely stunning. So stunning. I mean, we were taking pictures, and we were just like, these pictures just really don't do it justice.
Oh,
It was just stunning. So the trip was. It took us overall the whole trip in and out 4 hours. We spent an hour of that time at the end, just the ship slowly spun around so everybody could get equal views. But it was cold, especially the trip in, because we were on the side that was in the shade, so much so that we had to get out our Alaska gear just to stay halfway warm. I think I had a blanket or a towel or something across me just for extra warmth, and I had on two pairs of pants. That's how cold it was. So, but anyway, it was absolutely beautiful. Just again, the pictures just don't do it justice, but good day spent. And
we arrive in Australia in a couple of days, and we have 5 stops in over 10 days. Australia is huge, so it takes that long just to get around the
right.
country. So stay tuned. I hope you'll come back and watch our review of Australia, which we expect that video to drop probably mid
Mid
March.
March, right.
And until then, aloha.
Aloha.